Even before Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg's book Lean In was released in March, a lot of people were sharply divided on whether Sandberg was really the ideal person to write a book like this. The ideas in the book talk about gender issues, women childbearing in the workplace, about men taking on a much more supportive role at home and at work, and why feminism concepts need a rethink. In a recorded interview with Mint, Sandberg examines why women always lean back at work and what can be done to bring them to the forefront. A lot of ideas and concepts discussed in Lean In are fantastic when applied at the start of a career and followed through life. But how hard is it really for a woman to get onto the leadership track midway through her career, based on some of the ideas that you discuss in the book?
I really believe that the ideas in Lean In can apply at any point in your career. A couple of weeks ago, I got a letter from a woman. She's 62 years old. She was a work-at-home mom, stay-at-home mom her whole life, and then 15 years ago, in 1998, her husband lost his job and could not get back into the workforce, and so she had to go get a job. For the first time, she never graduated from university to support her family. And now she's been in the workforce since 1998. She's never had a raise. And she read Lean In, and she went in and she asked for her first raise, and she got it. And so that was really exciting. I think the messages of believing in yourself and sitting at the table, getting compensated fairly, those can happen any point at your career. I do think when you're looking at getting more women to the very top, the earlier we start encouraging women to lead, the better. One of the stories I have in my book is one of the points I make in my book is how little girls are called bossy. When we call little girls bossy, a word we never use for little boys, we're not encouraging them to lead, we're actively discouraging them. So it's not just that we need to start encouraging women to lead when they enter the workforce in the early years of their career, it's actually long before that. I've been saying that anytime you want to call your little girl bossy, you should say instead, my daughter has executive leadership skills.
You say that women rarely make that one big decision to stay out of leadership roles. So what are the small signs that can tell any woman at the workplace that her leadership dream is about to be sabotaged?
I learned this the hard way over the last, 15 years in the workforce, that time and time again, every man on my team, not on my team, was in my office talking to me. He wanted the next job. He wanted the next opportunity. We were opening a new office and he should lead it. We had a problem and he was going to solve it. And then some women reach for those opportunities, but many more lean back. And I would sit down, and even when I approached them and I would say, you should go for this, or you're the right person to lead the new office or the new project, they would say, I'm still learning in my current job, or I don't think I'm ready for that. Words I almost never heard from men. I think what happens is that women come into the workforce expecting that they will do the majority of child work and house care. And they will, and they do. And that is why women hold themselves back. Women know that they're going to have two children. And I think it's only if we can encourage women to know that they can have the support they need at home, we can also encourage them not to lean back in the office.
Crying at work is okay. In fact, you even mentioned that you've done so at Facebook many times. But really, is there a cutoff point? Should there be a point when too much emotion becomes difficult to handle at work?
I talk in the book about bringing your whole self to work. And with that, I mean that I don't really believe we are one type of person, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and then a different type of person on the nights and weekends. I think we are, all of us, emotional beings, and it's okay for us to share that emotion at work. I've also said I cry at work. Now, it's not a best practice. I am not recommending that anyone go out, if you want to get promoted, go cry. But it happens. But what I am recommending is that as we think about being good colleagues, being good workers, being good employers, we ask people, how do you feel? Not just how you think, because so many of our decisions are based on how we feel.
In the book, you've talked candidly about pregnancy and women. What else should be talked about frankly when a manager is hiring or preparing a female team member to take on more responsibility at work?
So I think we have to start talking about gender honestly and openly, because we haven't been talking about it, and by pretending we're all the same, it's not working. We're not getting enough women into leadership roles. So I want to be clear what I'm not recommending. I'm not recommending that companies have to tell women they have to tell them when they're going to get pregnant. That's absurd. But here's what I am recommending. My brother did it recently. My brother's a doctor, a surgeon. He just moved to Texas, another state, brand new, and he's hiring a new surgical team. And he said to a woman he made an offer to, I hope you come work here and join my team. And then he said, she was in her late 20s, had just got engaged. He said, you may want to have children one day. If you do, that is none of my business. It's up to you whether you have children. He said, but I note that in my life, I noticed how my sisters and my wife, they struggled. They didn't want anyone to know they were pregnant. They were afraid they would lose their jobs. And I don't want that for you either. So if you do choose to have children one day, you cannot tell me your choice, but my door is open. I am here. We can talk anytime. I am here to support you. I am saying, when I ask audiences, I'll ask audiences, please raise your hand if anyone ever said to you, if you want to have children and stay in your job, please come talk to me because I'm here to support you. No hands go up, or one or two hands. We are so afraid to talk about pregnancy, so afraid a woman will think we're biased, so afraid of the legal ramifications or the cultural ramifications, that we know one of the hardest times for women in their career is through their childbearing years, and we're giving them no help. So my advice and my suggestion is that we have to start actually helping them through this.
One of the hardest things in the book is to accept how you deconstruct the myth of work-life balance. In fact, there is no such balance in today's super connected era. Then, is it really fair to think that women can have it all?
So the words have it all, I think, are very problematic for women. We never use them for men because what we mean is men, we assume, can have professions and children. But with women, when we say women can't have it all, we basically think women have to choose. And a huge percentage of the world's women both have children and work full time. So we're setting up something as if it's a choice. For most women, have to do both. And that's not that's not working. I do believe women can have children and have careers. I believe there are great examples, including Nana in the foreword to the Indian edition of the book. But I think we can only do that if we give women the support they need at the workplace and at home.
Can having more women in leadership roles tomorrow really iron out this work-life balance issue as you suggest in the book?
So there's data that suggests that when there are more women in leadership roles, things are better for not just those women, but women all the way through. Things are better for women because they have better work-life policies for all women, smaller wage gaps for women. And so I do believe that if we get more women into leadership roles, it will accrue to all women. My book opens with the story of when I was pregnant at Google, and I had to park really far away and walk for a meeting, and I was really sick. And I went home that night and told my husband this story of how I was sick and I had to park so far away. And he worked at Yahoo at the time, and he said, well, don't you have pregnancy parking? And I'd never heard of pregnancy parking. I said, no, we don't have pregnancy parking. And so I marched in the next day and found one of our founders, Sergey, and said, we need pregnancy parking. And he looked up and he said, of course we do. And both of us, Sergey and myself, were embarrassed that we had never thought about it before. It's a small example, but I think it illustrates a very important point, which is that more women who are senior enough to demand what they need will help all women.
How can a woman continue to lean in if she finds no support from either of the two major sources of strength at her workplace and in her life? That is, the men that she either lives with or reports to, or the women that she works for. What, according to you, is the way ahead, especially for single moms in such situations?
So, single moms are a very big issue. In the United States, 30% of children are being raised by single parents, and almost all of those are single mothers all over the world, in India included. When children are raised by a single parent, it is almost inevitably or very, very often a mother. And so single mothers have an increasingly important role to play in raising children, an increasingly important role to play in our economy. I would say the most important thing for single mothers is the wage gap. So women get paid less than men for the same job everywhere in the world. In India, women earn 28% less than men for the same pay. In the United States, we're not much better. We earn 23% less than men for the same pay. And when you think of that for single mothers, it's absolutely unacceptable and something that we absolutely must fix.
The Indian Parliament has been debating the Women's Reservation Bill. Do you think reservation, which might not be a good idea for boardrooms, may be necessary at the legislative level? Do you think reservations really help the cause of women?
I want to be clear that I believe that we have to do many things to get more women in leadership roles. We have to change the stereotypes that hold women back, and that's really what Lean In is focusing on. But equally importantly, and I try to be very clear on this in the book, is public policy reform and institutional reform. Our public policy needs to support women. Our institutions need to support women. For example, in the United States, women do not get a single federally paid maternal day off or paternal day off. Not one, women or men. We don't provide that at all in our country, and obviously so many other countries do. Public policy is a very local thing. And so I don't think it's appropriate as an American for me to go around to every country saying what public policy should be. I think quotas can be a very important tool. I don't think they're necessary in every context. I think it has to be to the people of India to figure out whether quotas make sense in this context. But I do believe one thing, which is that even where quotas are used, they're never enough. They may be very helpful, but they're never enough. So if you look at the Scandinavia countries where they've had quotas on board seats and quotas for parliament for some time, those quotas have successfully moved those specific numbers, but they haven't had the spillover effects to get more women into leadership positions. No country in Scandinavia has more than 3% of its large countries run by women. And so it's, going to be an India decision whether or not to have quotas, but even with quotas, you will also have to really attack the stereotypes and tear them down.
Thank you, Sheryl Sandberg, for having this conversation with us.
Thank you.